fellow citizens. Welcome to this episode, the 98th episode of this Citizens Conversations on the Chat Show, UG, here on the Civic Space TV. Thank you very much for being a part of this audience for this long. Episode 98, we're here and we're bringing you conversations that are changing and space and occupying space in our day-to-day engagements. And today, my name is Masesa Demiano. I'm stepping in for my brother Kidega Moses, who's out to write his exams, and he will be joining us next week. And we are discussing quite a lot of issues that are happening in the country. The most controversial one, the most that has eaten up all our space for over 2 weeks now, but it's not new in the media, is the NSSF saga. Which has really consumed a lot of our space, and we need to interrogate how far it is and whether our money is out there for us who save is safe, and the bigger picture around it. But also, we are in the process of the 2023-2024 budgeting process. The budget framework paper came out, and yes, we need to discuss those bits also, where our priorities as a country in the budgeting process. Joining me in this conversation on this day, on this date, is our regular, almost regular, let me say regular panelists on these shows. We've not got an expert or a person from the fund itself, the NSSF, because I'm sure they're not ready to engage in media now, but we shall see in the subsequent conversations whether we shall be able to have them here. But today we have Dr. Sarah Birete. She's the Executive Director with the Center for Constitutional Governance, a regular panelist with us. Sarah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Damien, and good afternoon, viewers.
Good afternoon, and thank you for always being with us. Then our other regular panelist, the Major Retired Wich Pola, the Director External Services with the National Resistance Movement, NRM. And of course, we call him the government in this space. You're welcome, Ndugu.
Thank you so much, and I wonder why you don't want to call it the mighty NRM.
Mighty is subject.
How mighty is it?
Subject to the mighty in whatever is happening in the saga.
I like that directive.
It's the party for the masses. For
Okay.
And finally, almost our regular panelist also in when we're discussing the economy is Jen Lunga. She's the Executive Director with CIAT in Uganda. Jen, you're welcome.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Damian, and good afternoon, our viewers.
Yeah, thank you, and always thank you very much for being our go-to when we are discussing the economy. Yeah, if you're
Thank
not
you.
around, there's a team, there's a person, and of course, which always tells me, yeah, CIAT is always there for us when we want to
they are
discuss the
very-
economy.
They're very
Thank
capable
you.
people. I
Yeah.
like their in-depth analysis.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And right into the conversation, we'll start off. We've seen NSSF has been around for so many years. Controversies coming for many years with arrests that have happened, Jama saga, and now we're here again with the fight that is happening today between the minister and the MD. So we want to understand these all issues around the NSSF. But before we go there, on the panel here we have people who have their employees paying NSSF. They contribute to the NSSF, and I know you also, Afanda, you also, yeah, entirely all of us here are NSSF contributors here. But so we want to, let me start with Sarah. There are viewers out there who probably are wondering, especially in the informal sector, there are people who might not know what the NSSF is, and probably its mandate. So we just need to have a brief of what the NSSF is, its mandate, and why it is in the picture now.
Well, the National Social Security Fund, as the name suggests, is a national saving unit for people originally in formal employment, but not working directly with the government. So not being paid from the consolidated fund. And the nature of the contributions is that your employer contributes 10%, and you the employed, contribute 5% of your salary to be able to build into a pension fund for people to utilize and during retirement. So that is the purpose of the National Social Security Fund. Globally, most governments run these funds, although countries like Kenya and others have liberalized to some extent. So there are many saving schemes in other countries. But in Uganda, the calls for liberalization of the savings scheme we are not integrated in the amendment. And with the exception of entities that have their internal savings schemes like Makerere University, so the amendment created space for entities that have their corporation or savings scheme strong, like Makerere University then was able to recall the fund, their savings under NSSF and put under their own scheme, which is equally big. I am not aware of the conditions, but I think it should have more than 1,000 employees to be able to recall the fund and create your own savings. But the purpose is to make sure that people who do not earn pension after attainment of retirement then have set up their own pension to take care of their expenses during that retirement age. So that's the purpose of NSSF. In Uganda, globally, other countries have just liberalized, so you find several savings scheme. I know that there has been a remark by President Ruto saying Uganda is doing better on savings than Kenya. And true, the NSSF is the wealthiest provident fund in East Africa at a portfolio of 17.9 trillion. The current leadership, 10 years ago, our portfolio was at 2.7 trillion. So the current outgoing leadership was able to grow the fund to the tune of 17.9 trillion. And it's the wealthiest single provident fund in East Africa.
We might have to discuss whether we are still the wealthiest, but
Yes,
for a view out there, maybe you would want to also just to go a little further on trying to just tell us a few of probably the successes that the NSSF has registered so far, if they are there, and probably if it has really met the expectations of the people by far.
Previously, there would be a lot of frustration for people to access funding. People would even lose their breadwinners, and you find they are working, claiming for NSSF money. So in the previous years, access of the fund for the savers was not easy. There was also a lot of fraud, including fraudulent claimants. People looking at the fund, of course it was a syndicate. People looking at the fund and knowing that somebody died and there are no beneficiaries to claim the fund, then they create a ghost beneficiaries who would then claim the fund. And by the time the beneficiaries come, they find their money was already claimed and disbursed. And recently there has been an improvement with even the amendment that creates for 20% payout for people who have attained 45 years and above. And the rate at which it has been paid out has really been fast. I've not had complaints in that regard. There has also been a number of innovations, like the online whistleblower platform that was created in 2013 and has been improved over time, which is part of the controversy, because the minister, part of the 6 billion she's claiming, is to create an online whistleblower platform which has existed for 10 years and is accessible. So you are
the most sophisticated one.
So the other innovations include the smart card. I don't know how it works, and maybe I should pick mine. So I see NSSF advertising the smart card. Today there was a advert on their handle saying if you buy from Elite Uganda, the agents of Apple products. You will, with a smart NSSF smart card, you will have a 10% discount. So, and then they say you can register on the app or with Centenary Bank. That is also a good innovation.
So what are the smart card? What does it? Is it for those that are really have reached the time of midterm access, or yeah?
I think it's the midterm access or the limitation of if you have saved with the fund for 10 years. Because I don't know how. They say, as I've said, I haven't registered myself with this for the smart card, but I've been seeing the adverts, and I don't know. So that's why I put a disclaimer. I don't know whether that allows people to spend their interest. I don't know how do you use a smart card, and what is the limitation. But so I've not interested myself in that, because me really, if I'm saving for old age, then it had better be old age. So I don't have plans of touching my NSSF money before. But the question on the mind of many Ugandans out there is, for us who are waiting for old age, will this money be there or not?
Yeah, interesting. And maybe we shall get back to that. Ndugawich, I would want to just understand, as the NRM government, yeah, do you think that the NSSF has met the expectations of why you thought they need to have it in place?
No, okay. Let me first add on for the genesis of the fund, as said. Ideally, the concept is that when you grow old, who will look after you? And it is even much more felt in Europe, because in Europe, you don't even have family ties. You grow old and you're on your own. So the NSF in Uganda was actually formed with the assistance of East Germany then, because East Germany was a kind of a communist government compared to West, which was a capitalist. So it had things to do with workers' movement, and workers' movement from the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution in Russia, it took off. So that is the idea. When Okello has been working, when he grows old, what happens? I was talking to a German professor who told me that for him, his lifestyle, what he has been living since graduation from university and starting work, he will live like that until he dies. I asked him how. He says, if I was taking, after my dinner, I was taking 3 glasses of wine, I'll take it forever. Because my social security system is very, very safe.
Yeah,
so my life system will move on. So now, that is the idea of having a social security system, so that when this person is old, where does he go? In African setting, our social security system was like the children you produce. You have the children, when you grow old, they look after you, and the grandchildren. But you see, this society is becoming more monetary and capitalistic. So we now no longer have a social security system built in terms of the trust on your children and your grandchildren, that when you grow old, my grandchildren will put me in a house and give me food and give me this. So that is the concept, the whole idea behind. And I think what is worth noting also is that for an organization to start saving, there's a minimum number of workers, a kind of a cut-off point. Say you have, I don't remember now what the law says.
It was amended now, any number.
Any number. So at the beginning, that is what it was. So the idea is to keep somebody when he's old, when he's no longer working, rather than rely on the grandchildren, which becomes your security. You now have an institutional framework for your security. Short of that, people will now initiate their own social security. How? Through corruption. He knows that, when I grow old, I need money, so let me grab whatever I can grab for my social security system. So this social security system was an institutionalized legal system. That is why the saver does and the employer does, so that you have a system, so that ideally when you're old, you're not on the street, you have money to keep you, you're not even relying on your children, you're not relying on your grandchildren, and after all, you have not even stolen anybody. So ideally, that is. So it is such a normal thing that if it succeeds, or if it was working like they said, the German professor said, you really live in a good society. Now, your specific question was whether or not, or how NRM sees it as a success story or not. Of course, the fund is established by an act of parliament. It's under a given ministry. The line ministry, which is a political leader, is there, Minister of Gender, Social Development. And we had expected as a government for its routine running. Apart from the recent incidents, we thought it was working, especially going by the figures that the management was projecting, the 17 trillion, and the innovation that were. So as a government, we knew the law is there. We know the political head is there. The political head will set the board in place. The governance system will run. The technocrats who are employed to run were there. So as a government, we were at a distance. So we thought everything was right. So until the recent occasions, which is still traveling, we are watching, and I think we shall come up at the right moment. But all the other institutional framework, the laws, the political leadership, the structures in governance, the operationalization, those are the technical people, the data, the figures that are given to us, we thought we were doing well. And we thought, therefore, we had done away with a future security of a person who has worked in Uganda. So in brief, we thought it was okay, but we are now seeing things, and I think facts will come out, and when it needs government intervention, there will be an intervention at an appropriate time.
Because now, of course, we see the minister intervening at this level. Should we say that now by government you mean the president?
No, by government, actually, I mean the government. The minister is taking it. Right now, actually, we look at the minister and the fund itself as one, because they are all in the same contradiction. So therefore, I pull government out of it, so that our intervention would now mean to resolve the total contradiction between those actors now. That's why I put government out. Of course, this will now be at a level of cabinet, which is taking collective responsibility to make the minister presents it to cabinet and a decision is taken, or the president himself. Yeah. So for the purpose of this debate, I put the minister and the fund itself, because they're already in the same, they are entangled. So why would I now remove her and leave the fund? And so for now, she's with the fund and we take her as one.
Okay. Jen, we've this situation in the sagas or the misappropriation are not new to NSSF. Probably you would want to tell us where could be the loopholes in yes, you're not in NSSF, but I know, but you could have some thoughts.
But she's a saver.
You're a saver. Where could be the loopholes? So that, because it is this misappropriation.
She's
probably,
a saver, but she's an employer.
Yes, I'm a saver and I'm an employer.
us,
But
yes.
by the way, I retired officially and I got my money, but I'm still saving.
From where?
From NSSF.
You retired there.
I got my pension.
You
my
retired from where? You retired from NSSF, or you retired from your employment?
For my employment, because I when you reach 60, you can be able to get out your money. So I got my money, but I'm still saving. So I'm an interested party.
Okay.
And I'm also, my organization, my people are saving.
You are an employee.
And I'm an employer.
So how was the process of getting?
It wasn't, by the way, it was very quick. Very, very quick. And like Sarah has said, things have changed. You know, we used to hear so many stories that you won't be able to get your money. It will be difficult to get the money. But I was able to get that money. But maybe the problem goes back to to the country, the morals, the institutional decay, the lack of transparency, the lack of accountability, you know. And I think it isn't NSSF alone. It's all our Ugandan institution. So I don't know whether I don't know what needs to be done, but we need to overhaul all the institutions, not just NSSF. We lack, there is a problem with the morals, with the institutional decay, lack of accountability, lack of transparency. And there is also a lot of impunity. Like there are people who are above, not even above the law, above the entire country, who can be able to do whatever they want. And I think these are issues which we really need to look at and ensure that we are all below the law. We abide by certain laws, certain regulations, and maybe if we can do that, it will be good for us. And on this saga, as my colleagues have said, you know, NSSF is a safety net for all of us who are saving there. Things are really tight because you get out of employment, regular employment, with almost nothing. You know, it's difficult to save, difficult to invest. So you need some little money to keep you going after retirement. Then another issue is the issue under the regional integration. There is a debate around transferability of benefits. And this is one of the issues which has been limiting some people to move within the region to undertake, you know, employment from employment. Because if I have been saving with NSSF, I go for another job in Kenya, what happens to my saving? Am I going to save with another fund, provident fund in Kenya or Tanzania, or, you know? So that debate that you can continue, you know, you are in Kenya, you can continue saving in Uganda. That's a key issue which is being debated. And so if we have such challenges, it can cause problems.
I remember at some point they used, I don't know whether it's still on, that if you're leaving the country, then you can have your withdrawals made.
Yeah, but I don't want to withdraw my money.
No,
I want to continue
saving.
So that's an issue which is being discussed within the regional, the EAC regional integration. And again, Ndugu has talked about in Europe, the saving. You know, Europe has an aging problem. So many people. Unlike ours will have a challenge. It isn't a challenge anyway, but it depends on how you see it. The young population. Europe, it's an aging population. And all these people have their pension funds. So when you look at even our loans today, most of that money is pension funds. So ideally, NSSF should be investing our money, you know, because if we can get loans from pension funds from Europe, we can be able to use this money profitably, and we, the savers, can be able to get a return on our investment, a higher return than what we have been getting.
I think they have been doing some kind of initiatives.
They have.
But is it in the right direction? Because that's where the point of controversy is. Because if our monies are there and they are not idle but invested probably in the right way, we should be seeing growth. But is it happening?
I'm not sure. I haven't followed that. But what I know, the fund has been giving interest, and sometimes very good interest to the savers. Yeah, you can look at your.
I think it was 12% by last year.
Yeah, it was some good money. Some good money. But the entire issue is really to ensure that that money is invested properly, but it's also safe. And I think that's what everybody wants to hear, you know, that money is safe. Because what's going on is sending jitters down people's backbones, that what's happening to our little money. Should we continue saving? So I think government, you should send out that clear message that our money is safe.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. Maybe, Sarah, I would want to get you. She talks of the safety of the funds, and I would want to just get into that conversation. What is happening in the media? I'm sure you've been following this conversation closely. I would probably would try to put it up. What explains this now, the current fights for the control of the funds between the Ministry of Labour and Gender and Social Development and the Managing Director today? Because the reason why now everything is out there. What explains that fight?
It's greed. The fight is caused by greed. It's caused by thuggery. It's caused by theft. The NSSF has not had a good reputation over the years. The past three leaders, two managing directors and one board chairman, Onego Bell, were in Ruzira.
And in Jamwa, is it?
Jamwa is still there. The former MD is still serving his sentence over meddling with the savers' money and engaging in dubious acts of theft. Whereas for Jamwa, you could say he made an error in selling securities that had not matured because he was charged with causing financial loss. So you can say either it was an error of judgment or it was that the so-called error could have been caused by other things. But for the previous team, the chair, Onego Bell, I am forgetting the MD under him, who were both also in Uzira, it was for causing, for embezzlement. It wasn't causing financial loss. And then the previous minister, Bakoro, who is still in exile, also over NSSF scandals. In her 2 dossier recordings, she said she was receiving a lot of demand from the president. Give me money, give me money, give me money. And at the end of the day, then she's the one who is looked at as a thief. And she decided to run away. She had stolen no money. She had been used, and she did not want to end up like the previous people. So those are 3 scandals of the fund. The appointment of Richard Byarugaba, many people were wondering why he had left the bank. He had a glorious career in banking as a solid economist, as a solid banker, who grew up the former Nile Bank, and at that time it was very profitable. So he had that track record that was really commendable, and the people thought maybe the curse, the curse of NSSF, the ghosts, would swallow up his career and tarnish his glorious reputation. Where we are today, it remains to be seen as to whether that will not happen, because the controversy is tending to that. So what is the controversy? The elephant in the room are the letters authored by the Minister of Gender, who is the political supervising entity, and the Ministry of Finance is the financial supervising entity. So the Minister of Gender seems to be meddling in the administration of the fund in an unprincipled political manner. And this comes at the height of, her previous ministry, where she had faced the Bamugemerire probe over scandalous engagements with the property of the departed Asians. where about 3 houses were scandalously acquired by her as a Minister of Lands. So you have that in the minds. And politicians tend to think that Ugandans have a short memory. But they don't. The superstructure of the day does not enable citizens to take action against thuggery, to take action against impunity, presided over by President Museveni. Because if you go by the testimony of Bakoko Bakol, that siphoning of funds from NSSF under her leadership, she alleges it was the president who was asking her for money. Whether it is true or not, the president has never issued a statement. At one time, he met her in the US asking her to return with his son, and the pictures went over media, but he did not. Maybe he sees no need to defend himself, but it's important to the people that when such allegations are made, there is an effort to state your stand. And whether you were borrowing money in the hope of return, or whether you were using your political office to take savers' money, which is abuse of office. So from then, the culture of abuse of NSSF funds has not changed. The 10 years, we have had a break. The 10 years of Richard Byarugaba as MD, who was first deputized by Geraldine Sari. We had a break of financial scandals, but we had a management scandal with the Geraldine Sari going to court against the actions of Byarugaba. And later she won the case. And the court had ordered that she be reinstated, but I think she wasn't sure about the work environment. So we had that management scandal in the 10 years, but there was no financial scandal. Come to the end of the 10 years, immediately after amendment of the NSSF Act 2021, and so which came into force just barely a year after the amendment. So you have the minister. It came into force on 7th January after the Gazette. So you have the minister superimposing herself over the fund with dubious and scandalous documents flying all over the place. Just, I know I have a list of documents, about 20 documents in my inbox about the scandals of NSSF. But just to refer to 2 documents, one is on 7th, authored on 7th December 2022, alleging misconduct of Mr. Byarugaba. And in that document, which is 19 pages, demonstrates a conflict of interest, demonstrates a failure of corporate governance, demonstrates theft and illegal meetings, demonstrates underhand methods of genocide and the alleged meetings at Kapeka. You know, having all this cocktail at the savers' money, it's painful for the savers. Ugandans have gone through much theft under this regime. And Mao, who later decided to join the fish, used to say that fish rots from the head. So I don't know which part he's holding on. Whether it is the head, the stomach, the tail. But he was famous for saying that fish rots from the head. I think now he cannot dare say it because he's holding on to part of that
It's
fish.
on the executive.
That
on
is,
the head.
is on the head.
Yeah,
So he joined the rotting part.
Hiding in the gills.
So you have grand corruption under this regime. A lot of it is alleged that when the head asks for something, Then people add on their zeros also to get something. So you have the demands from the head of the fish. Give me this money, give me this money. So what message are you sending? Even us in our small entities that we had, if we decided that each time we need money, then you raid your small accounts, then we would not be doing the work that we do. Because as you do that, informality, even the other party
We do.
will add.
And you can't question.
No, but
You don't
lost.
have the moral authority
Yeah,
to
to
question.
question.
Yeah.
So you will have lost it. So you have this practice of give me money, give me money. The second problem
But the
is
issue is the money they are requesting is not theirs. So you
of
can,
course they
yes.
don't contribute to the fund. That's the most unfortunate thing, is that people in government do not contribute to the fund. But so the second problem you have, or the demonstration, problematic demonstration of that later, is the informality. And I know that NRM does a lot of informality in their governance, presided over by the style of dress. It might look minor, but the way the head of state dresses, that informality, some of the shirts, you wonder whether the tailors are working. So you have this style of informality, and
The government is very smart. So,
Very formal.
very formal.
so you have this informal approach. So you have now like Operation Wealth Creation. Which authority establishes Operation Wealth Creation? What money do they work with?
It's under the president's office.
I
Office
thought
of
it
the
was under
president.
Ministry of Agriculture.
Initially, yes.
Which money do they work with? What is their mandate? I know that they have a website, but what is the legitimacy of that entity?
Office of the president.
Office of the President. Under what vote? Are they under the vote of the President? Does it show?
No.
So you create such an entity.
It runs with maybe the manifesto.
So how does it do its administration? Let's assume that officers are seconded there. Like we have seen the UPDF, the soldiers seconded to Operation Wealth Creation. How do they cover bills of the administration? That is where thuggery starts. How do they run their business? Maybe Jen will tell us, the budget person. So it is important for Ugandan to know that if you are a government entity funded under the consolidated fund, then you are able to budget, your budget is approved, your source of funding is known, and it is supervised in accordance with the laws of the land. So how is Operation Wealth Creation funded? Who do they report to? Maybe they report to the president. What money do they use to carry out the administration?
But the dossier was clear on where and how the funding comes.
Yes, so you have now, you get the board of the ministry, of the NSSF, and they're sitting at Kapiega. What is Kapiega? In our national discourse, is it a personal residence? Is it a government entity? What is Kapiega? Is it a private enterprise? Is it a government facility? And maybe we should sue the board, which went to sit in private people's spaces and hold a meeting to go on record of millions of savers in this country. What is Kapiega? Is it a government facility? Can I go and also boot Kapiega as a citizen? Kapiega. Can I go to Kapiega? I don't even know the name.
Government will tell us.
Yeah, you will tell us. So I would like to know. So how does NSSF? We should sue the board for holding illegal meetings. That they've been summoned. So you can invite the board, yes. So did they cause a minute that we have received this invitation and we are going to Kapiega? You called it Kapiega.
Kapiega.
Kapeka, yes, in Uganda.
Kapeka.
We have gone to Kapeka, and this is the purpose. So is it documented? I think somebody needs to show the chair of the board NSSF. You know, because how are they administering the fund? From where are they administering the fund? So you have that letter also discloses the creation of a budget, right, by the minister. So part of the conflict, really, other than the demands of genocide and the demands of 40 billion for the Uganda Grain Council, and even the demands, the proposal that 320 billion of NSSF funds should be set aside for funding the National Development Plan.
Strategic initiatives.
Yes.
As a loan or what?
That is now the question.
The funding.
And I think
Like,
Direct-
how was
direct
it
funding.
alone?
Because it was not clear. It's more
Savers,
like a
it
direct
wasn't clear, the proposal. Maybe the board was going to process it. So Savers might need to go to court at one point.
Because you see,
So that there is transparency.
if that money, because the fund has been investing the money. So if it's an investment, because people have been lending government, so if the fund is lending government, that's also okay. You know, maybe buying bonds and all that. It can be okay to lend government.
For the benefit of viewers, there are two ways through which a private person or an entity like NSSF can lend government.
Yeah.
One is through purchase of treasury bills.
Bills, yes.
The second one must be with the approval of Parliament.
Of course.
Articles 159 and 195 of the Constitution are very clear.
Yeah.
All lendings to government by any entity,
Yeah, has to pass through the
the
parliament.
approval of Parliament. So you have, first of all, you have the informative and informal entity. Because even if a partition rights creation is under the office of the president, it's not an MTA, it's not an agency, it's not a corporate entity that can sue or be sued. It has no legal status. It has no legal status. I don't even know whether you can sue Attorney General for the conduct of people in Operation Rights creation.
At all.
I don't know.
Yeah, so what is it and how does it interact with Ugandans? So these are some of the questions that must be answered. I've just seen the statement of the minister in the parliament on the status of NSSF, and it's blank. It is saying the amendment of the act, the work, we are paying the savers money, so everything is okay. So it's just a feel-good statement. It does not address the controversies that are at the heart and minds of the people.
That's interesting. And I find out I would, with giving these controversies that are around, where does this leave the savers' confidence in the fund? Where does this leave us, you who is saving, for us to assume that the fund is really doing its work?
Of course, it hampers the confidence of the saving. That one, no doubt. If there's any dust around it, it doesn't give any confidence at all. But let me comment about a few other things before I go into that. The comment, Sarah's comment about the rotting from the head. I think Mao said it in error. He didn't mean it.
Because it's part of the head.
Ideally, the head of a government, much as we have the three arms of government, the legislature and the executive and the judiciary, but we all know that the chief executive is the president who heads the executive, and the cabinet minister is part of the executive. So Mao is squarely in the head. So if he said the head was rotting, then he's in there. But I think we should not dwell on his statement. I'd like to assure the viewers that the head is very clean, it's not rotting. And if it was rotting, Mao, in his sane sense, he wouldn't have joined it.
You
by
know,
joining.
you know, my brother,
By
I
joining.
thought what you were saying biologically that fish doesn't rot from the head, that maybe it rots from the tail. You know, the fish,
Is
like,
that
you know,
the actual science?
the actual science. I thought that's what he was
No,
disputing,
I
that
wanted
the
to
actual
address his head.
science
So-
is different.
So now, so Mao didn't mean it, and the head is safe, especially under the wise leadership of Museveni and the ruling party. So Mao said it in error. If it was true, he wouldn't have joined the rotting head. So you can see that.
Maybe we need to ask him.
Yeah, it is not true. He couldn't have joined. He would have refused. He was not coerced. The other comment is on the issue of informality. You see, the informality that appears to be is that NRM ideally is a revolutionary party.
It's
And it has
informal.
tried as much as possible to break away from the original colonial mentality, to the extent that we even question why the judges should have wigs anyway. So some of these revolutionary spirits cut across, and therefore some of us put on really even the dress code that you did, because me, I'm now a director at External Affairs. I'm constantly in touch with the diplomats, with the embassies. Otherwise, it would really be informal and be
So are
revolutionary.
you the
And
colonial agent?
that is why it cuts across to the president. So, and we even in parliament, Early Tumine debated until he relaxed the dress code, that there is now another attire, not necessarily a suit and tie. So that informality is a revolutionary spirit which has cut across, and I think it is good for us. Now, on the issue of the creation of the wealth creation and other offices, like the offices of, for example, of Colonel Nakalema. There's a provision in the Constitution which gives the president power to create an office. And some of these bodies, even if you have not landed on the right document, the creation and under the exercise of that constitutional power by the president. So I don't have that. I have it in the car, but there's an article, I can give it to you later. There's an article in the Constitution which gives the president power to create an office, and it does it legitimately and presumably normally in the best interest of the country. So some of these institutions that are not prima facie at the face of its sin, the president has used those powers to pass an instrument to create those bodies. So it may not be an illegal body because it is created by a constitutional power given by the president under the Constitution. Now coming to now what you call the saga of the...
And maybe in that, where do their mandates stretch? Does it go as far as summoning the ministers, summoning the boards of these other MDIs and all this to the interest of what they need to use the resources for?
Now, the mandate, for example, for such an office, let's say take that of Nakalema, is that the president, in his wisdom and the powers given by the Constitution, can limit in that document, that instrument is using. He can specify the parameters of where to stop or where to start. Now, in the case of General Saleh, I think Saleh is a senior presidential advisor. And in meeting many of the government bodies, the right citation, you can check it. There's a full citation, but senior presidential advisor on something there. But you can get the right citation. Now, being a senior presidential advisor, I have attended some of his meetings. But when you go with him in such a meeting and there's a bigger person, he even tells you that this person is bigger than me. Me, I'm just an advisor. He tells you in that.
But you're in his space. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Reason being, his method of work is that if you request to meet him, because you know that he will at some point tender an advice, he wants to interface with you like a fact-finding interface, a fact-finding session, so that you discuss at length to enable him, to strengthen him, to put in his advice. Basically, that is how it is. And he has met many other bigger people or other agencies. So the session for Saleh's meeting people is envisaged to mean a fact-finding interface or a fact-finding session for him to advise. But also in that meeting, he takes the chance to advise you also, because he tells you that if I'm going to tell the president this, suppose he says this, or he says, my opinion is that you could consider doing this like this. So that is why there's that interface. But I think his nature or his status is that attracts people to him, because some people think if an advice comes from him and comes in your favor, then you're okay. That's why people go. And any presidential advisor can cut that figure if he means it. So that is why I think he gets that advantage to have people meet them. Then he gives you that his advice. Now, there's the element of the funding. I'm not so sure whether I'm discussing hearsay, but for those who got the facts, like that there was intention to remove this money,
maybe just
to
as
put
information. So General Salim Saleh is a presidential advisor on military matters.
Okay.
So how does
on
he,
defense and security? They call it
military
military matters.
So he's well as part of military matters.
Yes, the military was
Militarized the
no,
wealth.
the
Is a
military was.
contract.
You see, the import of the military in wealth creation was that it was the wealth. No, this is explainable. The import of the military in wealth creation. First of all, the military officers were put at the political constituency level. For example, if you have a Gara East, there's a wealth creation. If you have a Gara West, there's a wealth creation, and a Gara North, there's a wealth creation officer. So the import of the soldiers was that the soldiers were believed to listen to command. No, first of all, they are not supposed to do procurement. They are supposed to deliver. So the idea was, if you want quick actions, you're going to command these soldiers. I want seedlings, coffee seedlings to reach to this parish. The soldier will run. I want tomatoes cuttings to reach this village. The soldier will run. It doesn't do procurement. So that is the import of soldiers in this thing, purposely for their ideal thinking that they're disciplined and they will listen to others. Okay? Now, about Saleh's portfolio in advice is that, of course, advice is in militarily, but it would also, if you have an advice and a view, we can share. Anyhow, we say to the appointing authority that advises. Now, I was talking about the funding of NDA. My opinion is that if I were the minister and I was the fund managers, the MD and all that, I was going to find it difficult to get money for NDA. National Development Plan is a plan in itself. National Development Plan is operationalized first of all through the national budget. So I do not see how a plan per se is funded. This now makes me think like we had some fraudulent students in high school who would write to their parents that they wanted money for photosynthesis or money for chlorophyll. Say, really? You want money for Pythagoras theory? So I am finding it, I would personally find it difficult to fund National Development Plan because for us as a ruling party, we extract our manifesto from the National Development Plan. Our manifesto is not devoid of the NPA. And NPA, National, is a long-term program. So if we are going to extract as a ruling party, and I would imagine a NUP or DP or whoever also extracts their manifesto, knowing that there's a grand plan for the country. So if you're going to fund it through your manifesto, which is given to different ministries, then what is going to fund the National Development Plan? So I find it hanging like you are going to get money to fund the Pythagoras theory. To me, I wouldn't do it. So and I already.
But in the letter, of course, it came out. The minister says that the funding was supposed to go for strategic
to fund what?
Strategic initiatives, and the strategic initiatives were a part of what what she said that the general had proposed on doing production, adding value to agriculture, you know, opening markets for agricultural producers outside. So he felt
Wouldn't it be duplication in what we have in our budget?
exactly.
Exactly.
So that is what it is.
So,
you know?
so my thinking is that as a ruling party, we extract our manifesto from the National Development Plan. In other words, we're already operationalizing National Development Plan. So I don't see how it is again going to be operationalized outside the government mainstream. But I already put a disclaimer that maybe I'm discussing rumors. I needed to see how they explain it and the fact finding. But in conclusion, the confidence. Once there is a red flag raised, and this happens even in a, take for example an NGO. If you're an NGO, say a membership NGO, and members start to fight, the donors, immediately there's a red flag up. It raises a red flag and people get scared. Now, to the extent that if savers had an option, they wouldn't be going to NSSF. Or you are now going to find flouting of the laws and the rules. If I can dodge the law to make me not put the money there, fine. So people are now going to get back to the traditional social security network. You have your children, you have your grandchildren, you have, so that when you are old, it is your child who will look after you. When you're old, it is your grandchildren who will look after you. Because the confidence in this would have been lost.
And that's why we are headed. That's why we are headed.
Yeah. So same thing like even in taxation. When something is wrong, people tend to now exercise loopholes of going extra legal to avoid it. So it will have a bad effect on this. So the earlier we clear it, and I say we as government, the earlier we clear it, the better. Because it has a very bad image. Very bad image. So people will resort to all sorts of methods. Because I'll be old, so what will I have to do? I have not saved the money. Either you have to struggle to now steal money to take your children to good schools. You have to make sure they have the money. You produce maybe many children, your grandchildren. This one will bring soap, the other one will bring sim pest, the other one. So we now
social protection.
Now you need crude social protection. And yet we already had reached as a society a level where we would have institutional framework. For example, if you have a money, you are an old man in Tuke, and you are getting 700,000 shillings, less than $1 million in a month, you can fairly live.
Yeah, you can.
700,000 if you're a retired worker and you are in Otuke district.
Interesting. And Sarah, this is probably a little more radical, but I would want to ask, why are we as savers laid back, and we are already not at NSSF demanding for answers as a public? But also in there, maybe you could, because we're almost winding up this session, strategies on how probably we could, what can be done to strengthen the fund.
You know, I think savers are not laid back per se. I know that a funder which has said that previously that Ugandans are not on the streets because they are comfortable with what government is doing. But Ugandans are not on the streets because we are a militarized society. We are under a military dictatorship. So the safety, we can say the same that even under Idi Amin, you could not have protests in Uganda. The 54 Ugandans, official, which is 54, that the government accepted, that were murdered on the streets of Kampala in November 2020, are still fresh on the minds of Ugandans, and they are still unaccounted for. Nobody has been punished for that level of impunity. So such actions, this government would not hesitate to kill people on the streets. They have done it before. They just shoot at people. They don't even shoot in the air. They don't even shoot rubber bullets. They just shoot to kill. and maybe going by the statement of the former NRM Secretary General, the state will kill your children. So that's why. And people are like, these thieves. Now government is broke. These thieves have come for our money. So do you expect them to power on the streets? Even the NSSF, given the people who are introducing bogus budget agendas to buy chlorophyll, to buy Pythagoras theorem, they would shoot. This government does not hesitate. Just the minister on the spot, Betta Monge, she disrupted elections of the creative industry, the Uganda Music Association, a private association of musicians, where government has no business whatsoever. She wrote to police, she wrote to General Kayanja and everybody.
Are they regulated under there?
But
It's a regulator.
now they have no leadership. Is she regulating? She's the reason we have no leadership in the music industry. This is the same minister with impunity that we are talking about. So how many letters would she write to police to kill protesters? Do you think she would hesitate? If you can invite yourself to disrupt elections of the music association, here you are writing budgets to buy chloroform and the Pythagoras theory. You think you can't disrupt? She would disrupt. So that's why you guys savers are not on the streets. Otherwise, they would be. I know that savers are having different conversations. Others are talking about suspending contributions. Others are talking about withdrawing those who are eligible, mass withdrawal of money. So this is the instability. It's like, banking is a sensitive sector. If you wrote about a bank that it has made errors, everybody will line up tomorrow to pick their money. So I am sure that some savers will put in their withdrawal, even those who are not planning. Because people have been saying that, the current interest is a 9.5.
But the
treasury bills and insurance, providence are paying more, 12% and above. So people have been already having this debate after the cut of interest by NSSF. Then you put in the thuggery. You create instability at the fund, obviously. And people are planning on actions to take in their individual spaces.
What can be done? We need to see.
I think part of the NSSF problem is the corporate governance, the board, the culture of handpicking board members, even if the stakeholders like workers' unions contribute to people. But a lot of workers who save money are not. We don't belong to these unions, do we?
No,
we don't. So what is the membership of these unions? Then the two people appointed by government, of course, one represents the Ministry of Finance, but there is that composition is problematic. In the proper corporate governance, the board should purely be from the savers. So it would be good at the annual general meeting of NSSF to have elections of board members. Those are the people that can be answerable to the savers. The current board is not answerable to the savers. It's not even questionable. Do you know them? You are a saver. Do you know them?
Just, of course, the names are there. And you just know the names.
So that is the biggest problem. And until we change that, the board, the handpicked boards will never be answerable to the savers, will never take matters of savers at heart. They are always there doing their selfish. Because I don't see, for example, if I was a member of NSSF, I cannot go to a meeting at CAPEC. How? If CAPEC has something to present, I would invite them to the board in our boardroom.
But I think it just be say a legal issue, because most of the boards of all the MDIs are appointed. There are more also slots for awarding probably.
But you see, this is savers' money. It
This
is
is a
not. You
different,
cannot
yeah.
compare
It's
this.
like a membership.
This
or
is a membership organization.
But it's
If you
the
don't have the
government-
1.3 million savers, then you have no NSSF.
But you see, the savers don't have a stake in it.
That's why
the
we are
running
saying
of-
we need
of-
to put matters of governance in the
in
hands
order,
of the savers.
savers.
That's the only solution for NSSF, in my view.
I wanted to answer why the savers are still behaving the way it is. Sarah already hinted that I had earlier on said in our previous session that Article 1 of the Constitution says power belongs to the people. And somebody had asked why the people have not been on the street. I had always said here that the reason why Ugandans don't rise is because of the confidence they have on the government and on the person of Museveni. I am a
I like
soldier. I've been
that.
a soldier. I'm a soldier. I know very well that even with the tanks and the helicopters, the people are stronger than that. And that is why for us in NRA, and which graduated to UPDF, we believe in a people's army. The power, people are at the center. Our gun is just to operationalize the will of the people. So it is not by chance that people are not on the street. Now, to the workers themselves, to the savers, you see, we still have this belief, which we used to hold in the army, and we used to say it in Swahili, Mzee Anapanga. Mzee Anapanga was a long cultured and cultivated confidence in Museveni, such that whenever we would see a crisis, even in the army, or even lack of food, for example, we would simply put it that the president will come up with a solution. He will get a solution. So we still have that hope that knowing that this is a government of President Museveni and the ministers appointed by the president, people have a hope that
So it's
something
not
will
a
be
government
fixed.
of the people.
It's a government of the people. So there's that element of what? That it will be fixed anyway. So there's that hope that it will be fixed anyway. So that's why people sit and relax. Not that they are powerless, or not that, as Sarah alludes, that you will be shot on the street. Even the 54, I keep hearing Sarah saying government admitted. I don't know where they admitted it.
Yeah.
Because, 54 people lying on the street. Kampala Road, even if you take from railways to Watoto Church, 54 bodies are too many to be seen on this street, ladies and gentlemen. The 54 people
scattered all over this city.
no,
How many do you want
that is
them to be?
not
10?
even one.
Okay.
But I'm saying the 54 is a falsehood. Not even one do I want it to be seen shot by soldiers. Okay? And that is why even in such operations there are terms of engagement to protect the people, to protect the wananchi. So that 54 that you imagine from Railways Corporation through Uganda House to City Square to Watoto, that there are 54
But I
bodies.
thought those were
No.
the ones which government was
No.
supposed to compensate.
Yeah. So it's not true that people were shot down and not admission. So the point of people not going to line up and demonstrate is because people still have confidence in the methods of work, in the manners that NRM government has handled things over time, that it will be fixed. And that is why they are silent.
Okay.
On March 18th, 2022, from 16th to 20th March 2022, government released a report on their findings on November 18th, 19th, riots of 2020, and they confirmed that 54 people were
Exactly.
killed. Who killed them should be the question.
Are you reading or you are saying your mind?
I'm saying my might have seen
You,
it.
so you read it. So what are you
do you
reading?
live?
You read what you are reading. You are
Where do you
holding a phone and talking
I
your mind.
am searching.
But
and
you
You are still
it
searching.
is a
And now you are
public
searching. Now she's searching, but she's now asserting. Yes, she's searching.
I am giving you evidence of what I said.
I
When I
wanted
said
to see
I
it.
was
I
not
wanted to
holding
see
my
it. I
phone,
wanted
it's
to
public
see it.
knowledge. It's
I
a
wanted
police
to know
report.
it is.
On November killings.
Let's
In which world did you live in? You tell your police that it's not true.
That's
For us, our numbers go beyond 54. We estimate at 100. 100.
Exactly.
Yours is 54.
And that was agreed 54
Anyway,
from
it's
government.
upon Ugandans to imagine Ginger Road to Watoto Church. Which day of the year were there 54 bodies?
Afanda, we shall get back to this.
These are, you are challenging your own reports.
Let's have a short break, and the conversation is getting interesting here. And of course, we'll have to go. We will do that research, and we'll share with the people. Of course, the people know they've read this report, and it is out there. Let's have the short break, but we return. Partly, we'll have to discuss the economy, the economic bit of this conversation. It's a short break from here, but for these conversations, we are on Chat Show UG, hashtag on Twitter, on Facebook. Please, we are also streaming live there, but importantly is YouTube, Civic Space TV handle. That's the channel. Please subscribe to the channel. Be part of these conversations. We have quite a lot that happens into the week, so you'll be interested in one of the top the conversations, the shows that are run across the week. Please subscribe, be part of the audience on Civic Space TV. Let's return after this short break.
The Citizens Chatroom happens every Friday at 2 p.m. on Civic Space TV Online on Facebook and YouTube. We invite you to be part of this conversation. Civic Space TV, freedom always.
Welcome back from this short break that we've had, and we, of course, we ended the conversation on a high. We're trying to dispute the unfortunate instances that happened towards the elections in November last year. So I would want to 2021 actually. So I would want to bring us and have a conversation on the economy. I'm happy that I've had a text message coming through from my old boys. We call ourselves the Atletico Muniga, who are following the show, and they requested that I do a mention for them. We usually don't do mentions here, but yes, thank you for following these conversations every time, and I'll be happy if many of the groups out there would ask for the opportunity to be mentioned here at the Civic Space TV. Yes, we shall, and we'll ask you to be part of these conversations. Subscribe on YouTube, and let's have the country informed on quite a number of these issues. So the conversation today, in this second segment, we'll be dig deep into the budgeting process that is going to start. Of course, the framework paper was approved and it was released. And like last year, the theme for the budget framework paper for this year is a full monetization of Uganda's economy through commercial agriculture, industrialization, expanding and broadening services, digital transformation, and market access. And on this show, I'm joined by Jen Alunga, who is with Siatini, and they are following this process so closely. And of course, with Major Witch Paula and Sarah Bilete. And into the conversation, maybe Jen, I'll need to start with you. Of course, for 3 years now, we have been running the project of program-based sector allocations. So from here, we want to understand, has this proved a better approach for offering improved budget efficiency?
Okay, thank you very much. And it's good, Damian, that you are starting from looking at how we are organizing our budget and our budget framework. Because you see, most people are concentrating so much on who is getting what That, oh, so much money went to this program, we need to increase here, to increase there. But I think it's important to look at structurally how we are organizing our economy, how we are organizing the budgeting. As you have clearly, rightly said, we went into the program-based budgeting. We have, for example, we used to have agriculture sector. Then we go to agriculture was MAIF, Minister of Agriculture,
Fisheries
and
industry, something like this, yeah.
Then we had MTIC, Minister of Tourism, Minister of Trade, Industry and Cooperative. So it was sectors. But now we have programs, we have agro-industrialization, we have manufacturing, we have private sector development. So the idea of going into the program-based budgeting was to avoid duplication, because automatically when we talk about agriculture, you can't talk about agriculture without value addition, isn't it? You know, without marketing, they go together, you know, so they wanted to bring out those linkages. But now the challenge, one, that even in the budgeting, you know, agro-industrialization, you are combining agriculture and industrialization. And it's agriculture who is taking the lead ministry, and then they divide some monies to give to Ministry of Trade and Industrialization, which wouldn't have been bad, but when it comes to dividing up the activities and the money, then it becomes a problem. Because, for example, now, Ministry of Trade is divided. They get monies. Manufacturing goes automatically to Ministry of Trade. But very little money, around 43 billion. Then they get some money from agro-industrialization under agriculture. Then they get some money from private sector development under Ministry of Finance. So you find, because for me, my belief really is that if we organize our economy, we organize our production, our value addition, our trade, we would get out of poverty. But you find because of that programming, which is really not synchronized very well, we are losing out a lot. Then another issue is that when you go to Parliament, it's a program budget. But when you go to Parliament, you find we still have sectors: Committee on Agriculture, Committee Trade, Committee Finance. You will never find a parliamentary committee on agro-industrialization. So we either do it right, or we go back to the sector and then we budget according to the sectors. But then when it comes to implementation and planning, the ministries can be able to meet and plan.
Interesting, right there. And maybe just to bring in Sarah, we're discussing the budgeting now, and of course, while in even the previous conversation, the NDP3 came through quite clearly. So we're trying to understand, including with this framework, is it responding probably into the priorities that are set out to the NDP3? Shall we see to it that we will see good accountability at the end of the day, or public expenditure? Shall we see, because now we're of course battling with the increasing public debt, shall we see to it that there is this time round we see a process of debt repayment, not eating up the lion's share, but in a way we are trying to generate income locally. Shall we see some of these come through so well into this 2023-2024 budgeting process?
You know, I would like to start by reflecting on the structure of Uganda's economy. Because if you look at our structure of the economy, what are the contributors to GDP? What are the factors for GDP growth? And then, you know, what is per capita income by sector, and then inflation. And then the changing contributors to this structure are output, trade, incomes, and employment. So when you look at that, in comparison with the State of the Economy report released in December, for December ending, for the year ending December 2022, released I think the first week of January. So you look at Bank of Uganda, they say their situation is gloomy. It's not nice. With a $500,000 in a negative trade deficit, inflation still double-digit inflation dropped a bit from 10.7 to 10.2. You have little job growth. You have increasing lending rates. You have and a high cost of living, increasing price of commodities. With a slow, you know, fuel has just started coming down. I think we got used to buying the fuel. It's above 5,000. We no longer even check the price, so we no longer even talk about it.
No, you check your pocket. If
Yes,
you don't have,
you park.
Yes.
So, but imagine just in 1 year, a little fuel still costs double the price.
Yeah.
That alone demonstrates the state of the economy. We still import almost double more than we export. We still have fewer contributors to our foreign exchange earnings as a country. So what economy are we discussing? Our contribution to revenue are projected to increase a bit, but 30% of our taxes are still going into debt servicing. So if just a glance at the State of the Economy report to me by Bank of Uganda should have dictated what budgeting can we do as a country. So we have an increase of almost to 50 trillion. I'm sure that by the time Parliament processes the 49.9 trillion budget, we will be 50 trillion or above. I'm sure about that, because normally there's an increase. Then a big volume of supplementary budgets to come, shamelessly. So you need to look at a budget, possibly by the time we process the next financial year, of 50.5 trillion or more. Because this government cannot work within the budget. We have a precedent to look at. For example, in the economy where we are saying we still, because Bank of Uganda said we still need to be frugal, we still need to tighten our belts, and they even predicted that 2023 will be tougher than 2022. But in that toughness, so the president, in order to tighten his belt, he has ordered for a new fleet of vehicles. So he needs a strong car to drive in a tough economy. Together with the vice president, prime minister, they are budgeting for a new fleet of vehicles in a tough economy to be able to navigate the tough economy. So,
Sarah, when poverty levels go up, your security has to go up. And that's why even in villages, when they say, hey, that poverty has gone up, you know, people are there are lots of young boys stealing. You put up the fence even higher. You know, you electrify it. Maybe you get you know, that's how it is.
So we need a new fleet to navigate the tough economy for all the top leaders.
Yes.
So that alone shows you that our priorities are upside down. They've been upside down for a while, and that's why we are in a situation where we are. And to me, is that without leadership, our economy will get worse. I know that people like feeling good about oil, but where is Ghana? We discovered oil with Ghana at the same time. Ghana has declared officially that they are bankrupt as a country. They are unable to pay their debts officially. After mismanaging their revenues, they have the weakest currency globally. They have the highest inflation at 80. Their data is at 80% of GDP. So if you look at, I know that IMF has issued a circular warning that Ethiopia is on its way down, and it's like it's going by the alphabet. Because if you look, I hope that after Ethiopia, Malawi is next, and Uganda seems to be taking up the queue. So that alphabet of collapsing economies should bother us. The leadership has no, I don't even know what to call it. It is unfortunate. Because the IMF and World Bank has asked the government of Ethiopia to devalue their currency by 50%. From this, Malawi is rumored to be next, and the alphabet is coming slowly. I hope it won't get here. So if you look at the priorities that are in the budget, I know that all the ministries have gone to the committees crying how their budgets were cut. So if you look at the mentality of people in the government, it has no correlation with the suffering of the people and the state of the economy. And without fixing the leadership, we can't fix the economy.
Interesting. Nuga Awich.
You want to say new car to navigate the traffic?
I will get.
You probably also, maybe yours is also already being shipped. But looking at, probably you want to respond to some of the issues here. But I want to bring you back to, if you have to score from last year, 2022, 2023, do you see performance? Can you say that really the economy really performed, and now that we're getting into the next year, that financial year that we've just left?
Yes, it did, and I will come to that later. But let me first respond to a few issues that have been raised. First, I start with you. You shouldn't give fear to our audience like we ended on a note like it did on NBS. No, you should first know that Sarah and I are Barantare, so we share a lot of good and humorous discussion. So the audience should not be in any way misled into thinking we can have any bad discussion. Not at all, far from it. Having cleared that, that assuring audience that we always discuss national
no, we
issues.
can't accept fights here.
National
Physical.
issues. You see
for other spaces.
see the kind of humor where we are discussing serious national issues in a Barantare spirit. So that is so good. So that is that. Now the other thing is leadership. I also like to assure Sarah and the viewers that there is no question about leadership. Leadership is clean and intact, and the country is in the right hands, and the voters who voted should not regret. For example, last year, here in this same room and in the country, there was a debate about government intervention in oil. You know, Rwanda has done this, Kenya has intervened, please let us intervene. Our clear leadership maintained and said, fellow countrymen, if you say the government intervenes now, it is cosmetic and it will drain the reserves that we are talking about. Please, let's leave it, it will settle. The thing was coming to around 10,000. Right now, it's 4,000.
Where?
No, in Nansana, we buy fuel at 4,000 something.
Oh, you are
yes,
the smugglers.
4,000.
We
The
better
fuel,
go to
You
Nansana.
are should do
This-
I
that.
will take a
Nansana.
photo and send to you.
Oh, those are
Before-
adulterated.
We are all still
That must be
about
adulterated.
5,600.
Stop it.
85.
In fact, diesel is
Even
even
if
more
you ask,
expensive.
call my
Yes.
driver out here and ask.
No, you are
So-
the smugglers.
So,
You
so
are like
that is it. So the thing is, I'm saying
Oh.
this in the clear, to the fact that
The fuel
the,
from there.
there's a clear point on leadership, very focused and firm leadership. You know, a leadership that does not take decisions in a populist way. You want to take a populist decision to please the citizens, and yet you're taking the country right down the drain. So fuel has come down. So I like to assure that in question of leadership, we are very safe in the person of President Museveni. He will always take a clear stand and in the best interest of the country. Briefly about the fleet of cars. You see, like cars, some of these decisions to buy cars are actually like 3 years a decision taken back. Sometimes with the funding, it comes late. But it's not like the president wakes up and say, this year we need cars. It's something budgeted long time ago.
So
it's
it's
not-
supposed to know that at this point in time,
Mm.
the economy is not doing well. Can we defer these budgets?
So many things have been deferred, but this one
But
was
not
not.
the car. Mhm.
So many things have
can't.
been deferred.
Mhm.
For example, in the area of governance and security, where I think justice law and other sector was lumped up together, there was a provision to recruit 2,000 state attorneys to facilitate the prosecution of cases. It was deferred, and that's just one. So there are many. But we also take as a matter of priority the security of the presidency. So you don't like to have a president who is stranded on the road, in national park or whatever it is, or even Kajansi, on the
How
road to
old are his
Kajansi.
vehicles? He bought
So-
the fleet after COVID.
So the fleet
He buys a fleet
is an
every
old. The fleet is an old decision, only that you see the implementation at that time. I like to talk about the ministry, the framework, and the ministry sharing. I wish we had a legal or policy position where we move in an institutional framework. So I would not want to see Ministry of Agriculture in the middle after budget is passed and they say, let us sit, we talk, we transfer money. It will be very difficult, even if the money is still at the treasury. So while we fumble around framework and with the discrepancy, not synchronized parliament provision, not synchronized to the other sectorial approach. So we need to come out, I think, clear on that. Otherwise, at the implementation level, we would physically see physical fights in vote control and vote transfer. So, but it is good that government is noting anyway. But I think that is an area to think about. Now, the economy as it happened, it is always shaped and we target by the theme. Last year's national budget had a theme. This year is, you have just read it.
It has maintained the
It's the
same.
same.
Yes. So those thematic,
No change.
that means therefore that is not yet achieved. So the performance of the economy is tagged to that theme. We really try to work around it and to achieve it. And as I said, we have a manifesto which we presented to the people, and we are coming to the third year. So the economic activities are geared towards achieving what we promised the people. And the thematic picking that is framed and picked is targeted to that. So we have the 5-year mandate, which I have repeatedly said we picked from the National Development Plan. So the economy is targeted to that. And several reports are pointed that we are safe.
Safe from what?
One, from economy not collapsing. Two, in the welfare of people. the eating and the health of the people. And by the way,
reports?
at the end of
Which
the
reports?
even the Bank of Uganda report that you said is not that gloomy.
But it's the headline, their own headline.
Even the Bank of Uganda, no, the headline, but the ingredients are really good. So, at the end of the day, what we will have to see is
Can I give
how it
information?
crystallizes to the welfare of the people.
After which, the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, which is a government entity, released the latest report on poverty, increasing poverty in the north and east, and the number of people living below poverty has increased from 8 to 18 million. So, which situation, what are you referring
You see,
to?
if you read that report had an exception or a disclaimer. The report, yes, that report actually was trying to factor in the element of the Ukraine-Russia war and COVID. Yes. In other words, if you look at it,
So whether it's Ukraine or not, why are you saying
was saying,
people are doing well?
and the report, by the way, looks at even, and it cuts across in universal figures in all economies, that COVID and the Russian war,
So amid this
as
suffering,
expected, it affected the economy. So it's not an ideal situation. Sorry, it is not an ideal situation. It's more or less a comparative study. But you people are taking it like, you are taking it like Uganda and NRM. But this was a study in comparative terms. And it is across the world.
But
that
you see,
focusing on these two factors.
You see,
For example, Yukos was saying the expectation was such and such number of people would be out of poverty. But now it is said because of this had the effect.
Yeah, so
in other words, you are taking the report out of context.
Are we doing well? Is the question.
We are doing well.
You see, I think we need to be true to ourselves, And for me, I really feel unhappy when we mix the economics and politics. If people are poor, they are poor. And let us agree. Let us find out the causes and then work on them. When you look at the figures, Sarah, what you have brought out, we are not doing well
not
at all. And these are Bank of Uganda figures,
and
Wobos figures.
Madam Jane, to add for the benefit of the viewers, that since 2019, we've depleted our reserves by half.
Exactly. And it's there. It isn't like the opposition. It isn't coming up with these figures. So for me, what I really want from you, my brother, when we are talking about the economy, let us look at the figures. Let us be true to ourselves. Let us look at the causes, because poverty has no color, isn't it? You can't say poverty is red or yellow. What poverty is poverty, So let us look at it and be able to say, now we are talking about the budget. How do we use this budget to be able to change some of these
I
figures?
agree with you
But if you
entirely.
say, people are doing well, we okay, that
So
means
when
we
I
are
say
stuck.
people are doing bad is when you are okay with it.
You don't have to say
No, you
people are
don't
doing.
have to
Let us
compare
Yeah,
look
because
at-
since your worry is when I say people are doing well. So for you, when I say people are doing bad, it's okay.
But what's the
But
truth?
you see,
We don't
I
want
agree
to
with you
say
to
what
the
you want
extent
to
that
say.
I-
Let
let's-
us look at
yes,
the
let's
figures.
have the facts, yes.
What are the facts? And then you can be able to say, where did you get that figure? And we can be able to say, go to Bank of Uganda, go to World Bank, go to Wobos. So let us be objective.
Yeah, the way you're saying as if I've given a bar to going to the figures is as if I'm telling you don't go to figures. I personally know figures don't lie. But
They
while
do.
you
By the way, they do lie.
while you are
41%
fearing
of Ugandans.
if you are,
poor.
while you are
Yes.
fearing the politicization of the economic
41%.
terms, by deliberately editing or tilting a report which strictly factored in these two factors which lifted people to the poverty, you are being political.
It isn't.
You're being political
You know,
yourself.
let us
Yes,
look.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it is. That's the truth. Whether we got poverty because there was the Ukraine war, then let us look at those
How do
factors.
we get out?
And how do we get
Have
out?
I objected
Yeah.
to that?
But you said the situation is not bad.
Jen,
Only 41% of Ugandans are poor.
and going to that, do we have strategies that are probably laid out for getting out of the debt trap? I just saw we earlier reading that IMF has added us some more. I don't know, some monies. I don't know. Yeah.
But is it a grant? Or
No, it's a loan
It's a
because
loan.
we negotiated in 2021. We negotiated a loan with IMF of 1 billion. So they give it to us in tranches, looking at whether we have implemented the conditionalities, what they told us to do. So this is the second tranche. But going back to how we are going to get out of debt, I just wanted to go back to the issue which Sarah raised about the priorities. And Ndugu here also raised the issue that our priorities should be tagged to the theme. Because when you talk about priorities, you need to have a yardstick. We have been talking about cars. For some people, those cars are priority, like our brother has said. We don't want our president to be stuck in anywhere in Kajansi. That's a priority. But I think we need to go back to our theme and be able to say, how do we ensure that we achieve, that theme, but also addressing the challenges which Sarah has really pointed out. And that will make us decide, where do we put our little money? Because it's a little, very little money. How do we balance? And I keep telling people we need to be able to separate what we need as a country to get out of this situation and what we want. People, we have so many wants. I want a car. I want this. I want that. We want so many Boeings, airplanes. But do we need them to get out of that situation? So, and this is where we need even to look, how we need to look at the budget framework paper. What should be the priorities if we want to get out of debt? Because when you look at our theme, it talks about full monetization, commercial agriculture and industrialization, services, digital economy and market access. When you look at this, where should we put our money? Which program? It should be agro-industrialization, Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Trade. It's trade industry, does with market access, it has UNBS standards. But when you look at the total budget to this ministry, it's peanuts. It isn't there. So we need also to look at what are the priorities and what are the enablers. Because in some documents, they talk about our priorities, the standard gauge rail and the roads, the infrastructure. Those are enablers. It's like saying, I want to go to Jinja. That's a priority. How you get there, those are enablers. Whether you want to get a bicycle, whether you want to get a car, those are enablers for you to go there. But we have turned the enablers into priorities. When you turn enablers into a priority, those enablers are unending themselves. You say, want to do infrastructure. We want to do a level, standard gauge level,
My back question for Madam Jen. I know that you study the budget critically and our budget cycle. We have spent in the past years so much money on infrastructure. But all our roads, I think 70% of our roads are really full of potholes. Is there a value for money, and are we still prioritizing agriculture in this budget? My second question to you, Madam Jen, is what percentage of the budget, in your view, is going into citizens' productivity to get out of the debt trap?
how much money is going into a citizens' productivity. You know, like I have pointed out, for me, I believe if we can be able to put money in agriculture production, and then productivity, value addition, then marketing, it would be okay. That money would be going to the citizens. Today, we can argue that the PDM money is going also to the citizens. But unless the PDM money is tied to production, to value addition, to marketing, then the PDM money is going to be wasted, you know, unless it's tied there. Because you are telling people, you are giving money, you know, to people in the villages under circles to produce more. Where is the market? You tell them, produce more pineapples. Where is going to be the market? So we need to organize that value chain, that supply chain, you know, and make sure that, because we already have the markets are there, but what we are producing is not in line with what the market needs in terms of quantity, in terms of quality. It isn't what the market needs. And unless, for me, I believe, unless this country we produce things which we can be able to supply, that we have a market in EU, we have a domestic market, we are adding value, we have the regional market, because even our maize, the way it goes to Kenya with aflatoxins, today they are there, tomorrow they are not. You know, they say don't bring. And we need to reorganize these markets, like the ES market. You know, let us address that. But we need products and actual markets. And we need to put, that's the only way we can be able to put money in the pockets of the people. But you can't say that PDM, you are getting money, borrowed money, and you are saying you want to bring money to bring people in the money economy. You want to give money to the poor in circles. You know, they have to be organized in production, industry, value addition, and markets.
Maybe Afande will at some point tell us the performance of PDM to this level. Because then a lot of cash is going there. But I want you to also to just break it down a little for if you say it's agriculture that probably that you would want to more investment in. But we also know that there's a service industry that has about 44% contribution to the GDP. But in here, you see that there are young people that are majority of young people. Don't you think that at least probably the biggest chunk of priorities should go into a sector like that one?
But you see, in economic development, the service industry sometimes indicates premature deindustrialization. Because ideally, when an economy is growing, even when you look at Britain, you know, the United Kingdom, when the Industrial Revolution, it's that agriculture, production, then the service industry to service those supply chains. But now you find our people, especially the young people, they leave agriculture because it isn't paying. Today people are producing maize. They are harvesting maize, by the way. But they can't even know how much they are going to sell that maize, whether the price is going to go up, and they are worried that maybe because it was a rainy season, it's going to be a bumper harvest, the price is going to go down. And young people, you don't want such uncertainty. So they sell the land and buy border. That's a service industry. They sell land and go into selling SIM cards, going into mobile money. They go into all that is service, but it's because we haven't followed that, that proper economic development, and that hurts the economy. You know, so it should be an organic growth. it isn't that you are killing the agriculture sector and the service sector is going up and you don't have an industrial sector. That economy won't work. And that's why, Sarah, you are saying with such an economy, we can't get out of the debt because government is not earning, because government earns from a booming economy. Business is moving, industries are moving, people are paying pay as you earn. They are businesses. You don't see that in our service sector. Yet agriculture is not working very well. Industry is not working very well.
So, Afande, I think you would have to agree that it was a good strategy for government to consider the parish development model, because then its priorities around agriculture and how people can do. Probably there's also the 1 acre model where the president has always talked about. So maybe going by what Jane is saying.
Of course, that has been our cry. Of course, that has been our cry. That put effort to the producers. That has been our cry. And we hope with time, people will agree that that is where it is. I also want to put a disclaimer that as we go into the depth of this discussion, you also notice that we needed a working person in my place. In other words, somebody who has been involved in the budget circle and knowing it and doing that. Because for me, as a manifesto holder, I can only answer at political level. So the intricacies, especially the economic aspect, to which I last did economics in military school, would miss out the detail. But still, at the political level,
on the performance itself, like the NDP,
and that's why we're saying our cry has been that. Which I think is a common cry now to others, is how I wish we shall be disciplined to that, especially in financial discipline that touches that implementation. Because already you hear the cow here is arrested, the cow there is arrested over it. But if this could be as the dream plan that we have, it would propel production. But also this is the synergy, the other connections, the supply chain. I believe that we are not sleeping about it. Otherwise, you would pass around and see rotting produce, fruits and others. You'll see maize as cited, nobody to buy. So, at a policy level or at a political level, that has been our cry, that model. And we wish to get a time, given chance, and we see how
because because we are discussing both the NSSF issue and now the budgeting, and we say there was duplication. But in the dossier, in that letter that the media said, there was issue of job creation and all this, including on the NDP3, and they talked about agriculture, that the Gen on the other side wanted to have interventions on agriculture, where they say they invest in agriculture, then at least when agriculture is booming, then the whole value chain is impacted.
That isn't true.
And that is the strategy they have, and that's what they want injection in, so that at least there's money is going there.
I would have no problem with that,
so
but I think
PDM would be there. Then
I would have no problem with that. What I would want as clarification from the author is, remember at some point we even said, even the money that we have borrowed from workers abroad. If that is the case, why wouldn't then government borrow and put it in the mainstream execution of that idea? The point of need for clarification is how the NDP will work outside this one. Or it's just not clear that they are borrowing to do that, but within this budget framework. The view we get out is that you are going to have the Paris development model run under local government or in conjunction with agriculture. But also, you're going to have an NDP financing outside.
That won't
So,
work.
so there's a bit of need for clarification there. If that is the case, then why doesn't government get this money and do it in one front? So wouldn't that be doubling?
You know, I think for the record, Damien, it's important to state that the permanent secretary, who is also secretary to Treasury, has said that government is not intending to borrow from NSSF. I think it's good because when Parliament was processing the loan from Stanbic Bank, people were saying the government, which has high chances of borrowing from concessional places, is putting a burden on local funds available for borrowing
private sector.
and increasing competition for the private sector. So even in the aspect of NSSF, which is putting resources, to revamp the economy wherever they are investing, I think it would be good if our government is not that pressed to leave the resources of NSSF to develop our cash cycle movement as a country, and they bring in more resources, but at concessional rates.
Yeah. Damian,
Yes.
I wanted to go back to the issue you have raised about that when you put money in agriculture, then agricultural production goes up, then things are okay. That isn't right. The economy won't be okay. In fact, unless you add value and also ensure an assured market for the farmers, then you are penalizing the farmers. At the end of the day, it will be us who benefit from the increased production by getting things cheaply. You tell somebody, put 10 pineapples in the back of the car at 10,000. Then you wonder how much. Is that woman...
Now they are selling 6.
Huge, Then you wonder how much are they paying for those pineapples there. So unless we look at the entire, especially the market. And for me, I believe all this money, the PDM money, government, the money you are doing as PDM, if you can be able to...
PDM or per diem?
PDM. PDM. All that money, the PDM money. If you can be able to put it to markets, don't worry where people get the money. People will produce. And if the market,
put it in the market.
Put it in the market.
The money.
Give it to
The money, ensuring that there is market access, ensuring that, for example, you have secured a market, and you tell farmers that this season, a kilo of maize will be at 1,500. Assured.
Price.
You set the assured, and that the market, the standard is the maize has to be as white as Sarah's dress. At 1,500, they would do it. They would do it. I have seen people, you remember Moringa? I even don't know where people got Moringa seedlings. They told them, Tia Moringa Funachiraru. They went ahead and produced Moringa. The market wasn't there. Silkworms, women fear caterpillars. But you could see a woman touching caterpillars. They told them, silkworms, you get the thread, the money is there. The market wasn't there. So let us work on the market.
We uprooted the silkworms at home.
The what?
We were silk farmers at home.
You did? The Murubai. Really? You see?
But where do you put it? So, but...
so PDM money... Get the markets, assured markets.
Yeah, I agree with Jen, and maybe before Fande comes in. You see, the developed countries have a different option of reviving their economies. They give people money to spend. create subsidies, create and make sure they increase the purchasing power of the citizens and revive the economy through that busy, rejuvenating the cash cycle. In our case, we had a tested model that we abandoned, and it's part of what Jen is describing. The cooperatives.
Yeah.
The cooperatives were an assured model of developing, in sub-Saharan Africa, of making the citizens productive by purely creating markets, coffee marketing board, cotton marketing board, whatever, grow more coffee. Now I don't know whether we need to return those lorries of grow more coffee. I saw them as a primary kid. Grow more coffee, for produce. Maybe some people joke on
Promote
social media that
cooperatives.
grow more coffee for Pineti because of bad governance. But away from that, we need to ensure that a farmer needs a few things.
Yeah.
One is simple advice that the cooperatives were doing on yields, on handling harvest.
Exactly.
Very little help
Yes.
that people need. What they need most is, where do I take my produce?
Exactly.
Extensive
How do
service,
I get paid?
Extension
Exactly.
And
service.
how much am I paid?
Exactly.
That is all. Cooperatives were stabilizing funds. We are providing that expertise, but we're also controlling the quality of the produce. And then God sent a scenario to kill them.
But you
What
see,
was the
That's
reasoning
good.
between banning these cooperatives?
Political influence.
Because they were good
But you can
mobilization
It
avenues
was
for
their
politics.
high priority agenda from the bush.
uh,
Kill cooperatives.
let me defend. Let me also, in a way, defend government here. That when you look at the late 1986, when government was coming into power, there was the whole issue of the structure adjustment programs pushed by the IMF and World Bank, forcing governments to liberalize, privatize, deregulate, government get out of development. And that's how we saw the UCB, government get out. But in a way also because other countries were also given that advice. Kenya here, Kenya was also given it, but they didn't swallow everything.
Yes.
You wait and see. Our government swallowed everything. We disbanded the cooperatives.
With a political tone into it, yes.
So it's the way government handled that whole issue of privatization, because even today there are question marks. And it goes to the issue we're talking about our indebtedness, how we organize our financial sector.
Yeah,
You can't privatize entirely the financial sector. Government doesn't have any bank. You are mobilizing resources for onward lending, but you are borrowing instead of mobilizing your own resources. You borrow from Standard Chartered Bank. But those are our savings. Our savings as Ugandans, yet government through UCB would have been able to mobilize those resources and on lend, So what I have also picked from what Sarah has said, looking at our history, is to be able to reassess how we can be able to reorganize our economy. It's okay to go back and reflect and see maybe that here we went wrong. Maybe we need to reassess the way we do things. I remember the other time there was a debate to bring back UCB. And for me, I agree entirely. We need to reorganize the financial sector. We need to reorganize the economy. If we need cooperatives, then let us bring them back. SACCOs are not cooperatives. No. They are not. But government is saying we have SACCOs. SACCOs are not cooperatives.
That's what Jen explains the motive of getting cooperatives. If
To
it
put
wasn't
together
their
SACCOs.
if it wasn't political, that argument would not arise. Because SACCOs are not cooperatives.
They are not.
Not at all. So as we go towards the end, I would want to probably start with Afanda, which in this cycle, do you think, and probably you could answer this politically, will the needs, wishes, and interests or aspirations of the common man be addressed probably in this financial year?
Damien, first of all, I didn't mention at the beginning that I'm recovering from some cough.
Hey,
Sorry.
why
So
didn't you tell
I've
me?
No,
And
but I've been
Social
struggling with it.
Sorry
So-
about that.
But I'm recovering.
Sorry.
So, first of all, on the society, which has been well answered, is that, well, I thought you knew the genesis, and that's why I wasn't going to labor on it. But NRM believes that society is not hard and frozen, even in areas of legislation. Legislation addresses changing society. So, societies came as he explained. The way it was phased out came as he has explained. But over time, debates are ongoing, and there's a ministry, line ministry responsible. There's a
For
possibility
circles.
that it can be revamped.
Reinstated.
Can be revamped. We don't live in a hard and frozen society. We assess issues critically on how it is, not how it should be. So we see what it is, and we therefore come up with a solution. So if the demands is that societies be there, it will be, and debates are already on the way. Now, the other thing is that the address to a common man. First of all, before that, the market. I have had the Minister of Local Government present the Paris Development Model to SEC, which is the highest organ of the party. And I listen in well, and I seem to think that the package, the holistic package, addresses the market. If it doesn't, that would be a big, big mistake. And I'm in constant touch. It is presented again and again, and I think I'm going to get another audience soon. I will raise particularly the issue of the market. And when I say I'm going to raise it, I raise it. Madam
you.
Nalunga, there was a time in this room when the coffee thing came up. And I promised in this room that we are going to have a party caucus. And we had a party caucus in Kololo.
Oh.
So that shows that we really should learn to talk what we mean and mean what we talk. So if it comes up, I'll squarely put it to the minister in that presentation to allay my concerns, or even concerns of Ugandans about the Marxists. Is there a backward linkage to this production that will come up?
Exactly.
So I will raise it up. Now about the common man, the projection is that according to The Economist, there are indicators which points 2023 as another challenging year globally. So, but all attempts and safety precautions are being made in this thematic concern of the budget to be sure that the common man is addressed. And again, as I heard talking, I think maybe we need to unpackage about the monetization of the economy. I do not think that it should be taken to mean giving money to villages. I think monetization of the economy means we are moving away from, first of all, production for eating, okay, or even barter trade, okay. We are moving to an economy where you produce and market and earn money. So it's a little different, or completely different, from a layman thinking monetization of the economy would mean taking money to the people and giving money. So that is not in my opinion. Therefore, notwithstanding the projected professional economist view that there is going to be challenge, we do in the mix of things, which is, as I said earlier, it needed try to list some here, but in the complex of the package that will be presented in the budget, that the outcome will point or will crystallize to a common person being happy. In that, save for the situation like in Karamoja that happened last year, we expect that Ugandans will be able to eat affordable food, drink good water, and have children in school, and also have health. So minimally, that is the projection. Now, on how it will translate to data and figures and how the economists will pick it, that will be for the economists. But we expect that despite all this, when this is rolled out, that will be the consequence and the effect on Uganda.
Yeah, that's interesting. Asara, whether this financial will see the needs and aspirations of the common man addressed?
They are not, in my view, they are not captured in the budget framework paper. We largely borrow to pay salaries, to pay administration costs, to pay. So even at a family unit, I'm not saying paying salaries is not important. I know that it's a statutory obligation. But even at a family unit, if you go to the bank to get a loan to buy food, are there chances of recovery for that family? You at least borrow to invest, to increase your earnings. So we are borrowing in that context of a home to buy food. In that food that we are buying, it is characterized by extravagance, like getting a new fleet for top leaders to navigate the tough economy. So you are borrowing to eat from Serena every day with your family. Instead of saying, I'm borrowing, let me go home, spend a little money on food because I must survive as I do a family business to pay back the money. So you are borrowing to buy extravagant vehicles. You are borrowing to buy, to increase people with pay, salaries. You are borrowing to, I wouldn't be surprised if an NRM regime continued to create new constituencies and municipalities like it is characteristic of them under a tough economy, under a 50.3 public debt versus GDP, under double-digit inflation, but the thinking is political survival. So when you have a leadership that thinks I must survive, my preoccupation is how to keep power. It's like you have, the country is suffering from a chronic disease. The country is a patient in the Cancer Institute. So you need to look at how do I wake up tomorrow. For a human being, the doctors are doing what they are to preserve a human being to see the next day. But for the President Museveni and his people, they are in this ICU, intensive care unit. How do I keep power tomorrow? It is their best preoccupation. And that drives the budgeting, that drives the extravagance, that drives the endemic corruption, that drives the bribery, including NSSF Tagari. They are bribing to buy their legitimacy. They are stealing to keep buying their legitimacy in power. So what way forward can be there for the people?
Interesting. Finally, Jen, your thoughts in the bigger context.
When I look at this budget again, it's almost like the usual. In fact, there are very few changes. Like Sarah is saying, like expenditure hasn't changed, it has gone up. We haven't reduced on that side of the expenditure. On the income, we are still borrowing more. And when you look at the priority areas, they haven't changed, So Like the English people say, if you do the same thing, they hoping to
Insanity is doing the same thing
uh-huh,
and expecting different
Different
results.
results, then I don't think we are going anywhere. And for me, I think we need a radical change in the way we do our things. The issues we have been looking at here, cooperatives, MTIC, Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. Cooperative is there in that word, MTIC.
Theoretical.
But, so we need to think better, to think different. And I think we need to engage on, in NGO, we do the theory of change. What's your theory of change? But maybe government could also borrow a leaf to say, if this is what we want to achieve, what's that theory of change? You talked about that you are going to raise the issue of markets. When you are raising that issue, I want to give you an example of the Continental Free Trade Area. We have negotiated, government has negotiated. The entire 53 countries, Eritrea is not there. They are potential markets. But
Of
what are we,
1.2 billion people.
but what are we taking there? There was a guided trade
We shall
initiative.
fly there and speak.
And speak.
That's
That's
what President Museveni does. Just to get a jet,
Go
like
and
when he
speak.
went into the US and they met fake investors. Yeah.
But trade is about a product, specific product and a market,
But we
whether
took
it's
Lato to
avocado and
You
it
took
has to
what?
be
We
a
took Lato to
specific
Dubai, Lato
avocado
America.
to a certain place.
So you think
So
Dubai
when
has
you are
enough
talking
ordered
about
milk?
markets, I know what government says. They usually say, you produce, the markets are there. We have the EU market, we have the AGOA market, we have the ESC market, we have the CFTA market. Those are not markets. Those are potential markets. And we need to translate that potential into a reality. And we need to talk about that. Then, lastly, I think we need to look at the external environment. Usually when we are talking about trade, it's like we are speaking in a vacuum. Our brother here talked about the Ukraine when we are talking about poverty, the Ukraine war. The Ukraine war has positives and negatives. Countries like Ethiopia and Egypt. Ethiopia, they have put a lot of money in wheat growing, a lot, because they used to get wheat from Ukraine. Now they are growing their own wheat. That's a strategy. That's a positive. When you look at the exports of Ukraine, one of them was sunflower. And I remember there was a paper from Ministry of Finance telling us that oil, our cooking oil and soap have gone up because of Ukraine. We are not getting sunflower. That's an opportunity. We can be able to look for those markets and grow sunflower, So when you go back to government, to the bigger government, talk about these practical issues. And that's when we can be able to agree whether we are putting our money in the fleets of cars or putting it in production.
Okay. Thank you very much. So you wanted to add on something?
Of course, when Madame Jen talked about government theory of change, they have it. But the theory of change of NRM is to impoverish people because poor people are easier to govern and oppress.
Of course, Sarah is joking. She's not
Thank you very much to our dear viewers out there who are following this conversation here on the Civic Space TV this Friday afternoon. Thank you very much. The 98th episode has come to this end, and thank you very much. Also, continuously follow these conversations. We're on Twitter. The hashtag is known ChatShowUG, but also Civic Space TV TV handles. You could follow there. The YouTube, the channel is active. The conversations are on there. You should keep sharing your thoughts, your comments, your ideas, whatever it is that will help us grow here, but also shape and also continue having these discussions going on and on. And from us here with my crew, we say thank you for being part of the show today, and also thank you for following the conversations here on Civic Space TV. My dear panelists, thank you for creating time for these conversations and informing our public there. Let us follow and also monitor what is happening with our monies, and probably maybe we shall have a thick skin that will allow us move and demand physically to be in charge of this NSSF and our monies. So from here, I will say thank you. Enjoy your weekend. May God bless Uganda.